Hi there, it's Mr. Johnson, and we are going to talk about our half magazine drawing project. This is so much fun. I've done this every year with my classes, so hopefully you'll have a great time. You need some magazines and glue stick drawing materials in your sketchbook. Let's go. So here are some examples. So what the half magazine drawing is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to take a photo from a magazine. That's like a full page image or an advertisement, cut it in half, and then draw in the missing half. So here are two amazing examples. So here you've got the magazine image that's been pasted on the page on the left side, and on the right side, they've recreated the missing half of the photo in pencil. You can see the piece that they used as a reference here. Same thing with this one on the right. This is the magazine image on the left that they've pasted in. Here is the drawing, and then here is the cutout part of the image that they used as their reference. It's so much fun. It is challenging, so keep that in mind. It's a lot of fun. Now you can draw in the missing part freehand, or you can use tools like a grid. That's what this artist did on the left. You can see that they drew a grid over the magazine portion. Then you very lightly draw the same grid on the missing part of the image on your paper, and that can help you placing all of the parts of the photo. Now, both of these are close-up faces. Your page does not have to be that. It can be a photo of anything that you want. So, again, some more faces, but all you need are large magazine photos, pencil, scissors, a glue stick, and, of course, your sketchbook. So these are some ads here. Now, some cool things to look at. The image that's on the left here of the girl looking over her shoulder, they didn't split this exactly in half, which I think does add some visual interest. This is kind of torn out on this wavy line. It goes on an angle, and then they've drawn in the missing parts, including the text, which is really difficult to do. I would do everything I could to stay away from lettering because I'm not good at it. They did a great job making that all line up. And then here's this guy on the other side. More of the straight up traditional version. You cut the photo, bisect it right in half, and then draw in the missing half of the image. These are both student examples. I think they're absolutely fantastic. It gives you a good sense of what we're looking for. So not just a line drawing. You want to try and shade in your areas using a range of values to try and match up with the values from the original image. Now, you can do this in color if you want. You certainly don't have to. Just pencil drawing black and white is a great way to go. And hopefully you'll have a lot of fun working on it. So here's a little video where an art teacher explains this version of it. I think this is incredible. So let's watch as she talks about this, and then we'll comment on it afterwards.
So the first thing we're going to do is cut your image, okay? And I'm going to leave it up to you how many pieces you cut your image in. So you can see I have this image. It takes up most of my paper. That's another important thing. We don't want to be working from tiny images that, are going to be really small. All of these sketchbook assignments, we want to be filling up the paper.
Yes.
So for me, I cut out 1, 2, 3, 4 chunks, and then kind of filled them in with my own drawings. Maybe I'm calling this a half magazine drawing, so maybe you want to take your image and you want to slice it in half, and one half you glue down, the other half you draw. It's up to you. I wanted to challenge myself a little bit, so instead of just cutting my image in half, I cut out 4 chunks. Now, to go along with that, we don't want to take our image and just cut out like one tiny little chunk, okay?
No.
We want, if you're cutting out several pieces like I did, you want to make sure it's equivalent to about half of your image.
Yes.
If you're only drawing one tiny little piece, you're not really developing your skills and you're not fulfilling the assignment.
No.
So we want to make sure that we are saving the pieces. So you can see here, I have my pieces. Once you're done with your drawing, you don't necessarily have to hang on to them. I did just so I could use them as an example for you. But I have all of the pieces that I cut out here, okay? The second thing that we're gonna do is glue our image down. So depending on what kind of materials you have, A glue stick, Elmer's glue would work great with this. You can also tape it if you don't have access to those things, or worst comes to worst, if you don't have any sort of adhesive like glue or tape, you can certainly just put your image down. And then when we get back to the classroom, or when you do have those materials, you can glue it. The third step that we're going to do, once we've cut our image apart, we've glued it, then we're going to draw. Okay, so if you can imagine, when I had this glued in, these 4 boxes were empty. Now, this exercise is an exercise in observation. Very, very important there, in observation. So focusing on this square, here is, I'll set it here so that you can see it really clearly. Here's the square that I cut out of here, and here is the square that I drew. Now, obviously, I've done this a lot. I'm pretty good. One of my skills is being able to draw realistically, so I don't want you to compare yours to mine, okay? You're doing the best that you can, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna observe, okay, what do I see in this image, and you're going to try your best to recreate over there. Okay, now obviously you're going to be doing this in pencil. We don't want to start with a permanent material. For me, my image was colored, but I just chose to use drawing pencils because I wanted my image to look, or my drawings to look a little different than my image. So if your image is colored like mine is, that doesn't necessarily mean that your drawing has to be colored. Okay, but you're going to do your best to try to recreate. One tip that I like to do is I like to pretend that there is a vertical line and a horizontal line through my image. Maybe you even want to draw that on there. And then I'll do the same thing here. So my image is kind of broken up into 4 pieces. And then that helps me figure out, okay, if it's broken into 4 pieces, then, the nose needs to go in the upper left. So when I'm drawing it here, then I know where my nose needs to go, etc. It's kind of nice when you're working this way too, because you can kind of set it on top. We're not doing any sort of tracing, but you can set it on top and kind of help it compare. Like I could kind of put this down, maybe put my finger down and say, oh, okay, that nose is in the right spot. Up to you how you do this. But we're working on observation. So we are trying to draw what we see in here. Okay, so you can see kind of how I did that there. Now, once you draw everything, and you can see, if we focus on the eye, I drew the lines of where I thought the eye should be. I kind of drew some lines within the hair, the outline of the hair, the creases in the eye. And then you want to shade or color. Okay, so I wrote color down here, but for me, I didn't use any color, I just shaded. So with my pencil, in the areas that are shadows, so if we look in the crease of her eye right here, that area is a lot darker than the front part of her eyelid. So when I was shading, I just pressed harder with my pencil. So I'm constantly looking back and forth from my image to my paper and trying to recreate what I can see. Okay, we're working on trying to draw a little realistically here. This is going to be a challenging one for a lot of you, so try not to get frustrated. And don't worry if yours doesn't turn out perfect, okay?
All good advice.
The last step is just having an optimistic attitude. So working on doing your best, okay? Like I said, this might not be your most successful one, or maybe you're gonna find that you have a lot of success. You might surprise yourself. But this is a great exercise in getting better at drawing, especially from observation.
Yes.
Good luck.
All right, so she has so many great tips and suggestions for you, right? Using the part of the photo that you cut out as a reference, right? Hold it right by what you're drawing, but you are not tracing it, right? I can tell if you've traced it, so you are not tracing it because there's no skill development there. This is about looking at that part of the image, and also about using the marks from the original picture as a guide for placing the missing parts of your drawing. So here are 2 more student examples. So the girl with the horse here that's been cut, they ended up drawing in almost all of the horse because most of it was on the half that they decided to redraw. But when you're looking at this, right, using the edges of where the photo's cut as a great marker, so you got to make sure that the ear line continues from what's in the photo down onto where you draw. It should line up back here on the bottom. So using all those as reference points is excellent. So if you look on the Audi ad, you want to make sure that you're drawing the circle that it connects, right, the one that you draw for the pieces that are still left on the photo. Same thing with all of the car. That'll help really give you some guidelines for where those objects are going to go. And again, you can see that they've added shading. And they've worked the entire part of the page. It's not like, oh, I'm just drawing the car, and then they leave the rest of the space alone. They've also drawn in the edge here of the dunes, and they've drawn in the water and shaded some of that. They've shaded in some of the clouds in the sky up here to match the image from the magazine. I've also added shading down here on the ground, right in the sand, to match the image from the magazine. So here are some suggestions for you. Try to match the lines and values from the photo in your drawing as best that you can. So again, it's all about trying it. Give it some effort. Work slowly. This is not something you can do in 20 minutes. And if you're done in 20 minutes, then you need to go back and start really adding more detail and refining your drawing. Don't pick something too easy. Where's the challenge in that? If you attempt it and it meets all the criteria, right, you're going to get an A on it. So if you mess it up, that's okay. I'd rather you try something difficult and mess it up than pick, a photo that's half of an orange on a blank space and you draw half a circle and you go, I'm done. I don't want to see that. It's not going to help you in any way. There's really nothing you're going to gain from doing that. Don't trace, smiley face. I can tell if you do. That is cheating. Use the cutout parts as reference, right? Put them on top of what you're drawing and move them. Put them right next to your drawing to act as a guideline, but don't trace it. If you want to be creative, try cutting your photo into multiple pieces or an interesting shape. This big diagonal section of the lipstick photo is really cool. That was a great way to do this project. Now, they've drawn more than half of it, so you don't need to draw that much. They could have left a little bit more of the photo, but they chose to really push themselves, include part of the image, and then draw in the rest. That's really ambitious. That's awesome. So keep these things in mind. It's entirely up to you how you decide to cut up your photo. It could be just straight in half, or it could be an interesting shape or pieces. Play around with it. So here are your instructions. Find a photo that is large. It should fill up most of the page in your sketchbook. The best thing to find is a full-page ad from a magazine. That's going to be the best thing that works because it'll be the right size. It usually is one main image. If there's some text on it, you can choose to include that or not. I don't mind if you don't do that. Cut or tear it in half. So a lot of the other images were cut. This one was ripped, and you can see that gives a much more jagged edge. That could be an interesting look too. It's entirely up to you. Paste, right, that part of the photo in your sketchbook. Make sure it's off to the side. Don't put it right in the middle, or you're not going to have room to do your drawing. Make sure that you lay that out where it needs to be so you can draw in the missing parts. Now look at the other part of your photo as a reference. Lightly begin to sketch in the missing half of your image. Make sure that the lines match up with your photo so that the hair, if this part of the hair curves down, it should continue off into the drawing. If the hair curves up, it should continue right there. We don't want to see that the drawing doesn't line up. So if it hits the edge where it's cut or ripped, you need to continue it. And then at the end, add some detail, have a lot of fun. And these can just be pencil drawings, but make sure that they have value. Really add in as many details as you can. Go slowly. It's all about observation, looking at the image, trying as best as you can to recreate it, using the cutout part as a guide. And hopefully this will really help improve your drawing skills. If you need help, please let me know. I'm happy to help you in any way that I can. Make sure that you are submitting progress photos each day that you work on this. That way I can give you feedback before you complete the drawing. And then when you're done, make sure you have a good quality photo you can post to your portfolio. Can't wait to see what you draw.